How's it going, everyone? How are you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Today I am giving you my predictions for the Chelsea versus Newcastle game. That's at 4:30 in the morning. Yay! I love waking up at 4:30 in the morning. It's great. Newcastle are coming off of a very disappointing loss against Southampton. Fortunately, they had the international break to try and regroup and figure out what went wrong in that game, which I'm sure they were watching a lot of footage trying to correct their mistakes. And Chelsea coming off of a huge 4-1 win over Sheffield, a great response after getting scored on early, and a very high press in that game, which will be relevant in this game against Newcastle. We'll talk more about that later. But to get right into the player news, Christian Pulisic still out with that hamstring injury. It's very worrying, his injury streak now. He's been out a lot. And not just this season, but last season as well. He was out for like half the season. Partially because Lampard wasn't starting him, but then he genuinely would get injured and he was out. So his injury record is starting to get a little worrying. Lampard said they're still trying to figure out like a training regimen specifically tailored for him. But I just think it's a little worrisome that he's not playing a whole ton. He's not playing a whole lot. When he does, he plays well. But he just gets injured a lot. So it's a bit worrying now. It's becoming a bit of a repetitive, reoccurring thing, especially with his hamstring. That's not good for a player at his age. He's what, 22 or something like that, and he's still young. And for him to be having that nagging sort of injury is not a good sign for his future playing days. And moving on, Billy Gilmore still recovering from his surgery. Thiago Silva is very doubtful because of match fitness. He had to fly in from a far distance. So once again, it looks like jet lag is going to keep Thiago Silva from this game. Kai Havertz still recovering from COVID after he was diagnosed before the Sheffield. No, before the Sheffield game. I think it was before the Sheffield game. No, it was before the game against Rennes, I believe. Yeah, it was the game against Rennes. He was diagnosed with, the test came back positive. Still recovering, and according to Lampard, he only just came back to training. I think with everyone else, he's been self-isolating. I'm sure he's been doing things on his own, but there's a chance he doesn't. I think it's likely he doesn't start. Very likely he doesn't start, but there's a chance he features on the bench anyways. Now, a quick note before I move on to Sheffield. Lampard did say that he was still unsure of everyone's fitness following the international break because not everyone was back yet. So we haven't gotten any other word as to who might not be fit. It might just be a case of players who might not be 100% fit still playing, still starting, or even coming on the bench. That's why I say Havertz will likely feature on the bench. Now for Newcastle, Ryan Fraser is still out. Callum Wilson is probable. It's not likely. I don't think we'll see him start, much like Havertz. I think we'll likely see him on the bench. And then Jonjo Shelvey and Matt Ritchie are still out, but according to the manager, they're still close to returning to match fitness. I believe Dubravka is still out to injury. Nothing straight from Newcastle, but I'm assuming it's just because it's a long-term thing, and so he's still going to be out for a while. Now, with that being said, we're going to get right into the lineups for Chelsea. I'm rolling with a 4-3-3. Edward Mendy in goal. I left back Ben Chilwell. The center back duo, I'm going with Zuma and Rudiger. Lampard has shown Rudiger a little bit more love recently, bringing him on as a substitute for Thiago Silva at one point. And then he started against, was it Burnley or was it Krasnodar? It was one of those games he started. So showing a little more love to Rudiger. I am a little annoyed that Tomori is getting nothing recently, and I feel like that's only going to push him away. He's talented, he's young, he's clearly got a bright future at Chelsea, and I just don't like that he's kind of been pushed out the picture. I do think Tomori deserves some kind of love, but as of recent weeks, he's got nothing. So I wouldn't blame him if he's thinking about a loan move or something by January. Now, at right back, Reece James, the midfield trio, we have Jorginho, Conte, and Mason Mount. Now, for the front three, I decided to go with Callum Hudson-Odoi on the left, Timo Werner up top, Hakim Ziyech on the right. Now, the thing is more than likely what Lampard is going to do is he's going to start Tammy Abraham up top, have Timo Werner off to the left. My thing is starting Hudson-Odoi isn't so much to play to Hudson-Odoi's strengths. It's more so to play to Timo Werner's strengths. Timo Werner plays a lot better down the middle. His high press is so much better. The defense has to pay a lot more attention. He's drawing in two center backs as opposed to him playing on the side where he's likely really only drawing in a fullback. So I personally think him going down the middle against two center backs who he can probably easily, well, actually in this game he's going to have three because Newcastle are likely going to play five in the back, which I'll get to in a second. So he's going to be drawing three defenders, and he can I guess that he can very easily outpace them. So I think him going against the center backs is a much better matchup for him as compared to him going out wide and having to deal with, you know, just a fullback. I mean, you could say that he'll beat the fullback, but a lot of the times when Timo Werner plays out wide, he ends up coming back to the middle anyway a lot. He starts, you know, drifting towards the middle anyway, so you may as well keep him there. Tammy Abraham's not playing out wide, so that's why I think Hudson-Odoi would be the good option here. Hakim Ziyech is the only one that I'm like, yeah, he's playing on the right. He's the only one that's like a shoo-in on that one. Now for the subs, I have Kepa, Emerson, Azpilicueta, Kovacic, Havertz, put a little asterisk there, Tammy Abraham, and Olivier Giroud. With Havertz, if he's not fit enough to even feature on the bench, then I'd replace him with likely Christensen, and Lampard will probably run 3 defenders, a midfielder, and 2 forwards for the bench. Now for Newcastle, I stuck with a very, very, very similar lineup to what they have been. The only exception I put, and I didn't even type it here, I'll just say it, was at the top with Callum Wilson being out. I don't think he's going to start. I think he'll feature on the bench though. But to get into it, 5-3-2, in goal, Darlow for their defensive 5. Lewis on the left, Fernandez, Lascelles, and Schär, the center back trio. On the right, Murphy. For their midfield trio, we have Miguel Almiron, Hendrick, and Sean Longstaff. Up top, we have St. Maximin and Andy Carroll. I didn't write it here because I'm dumb. My only thing with Almiron is there was a little drama around him, but the manager still kind of spoke highly of him, so I doubt he'll drop Almiron for the little drama that was mostly caused by his agent. So I think he still starts this game. Now for their subs, they have Gillespie, Clark, Manquillo, Hayden, Longstaff, I think it's Matt Longstaff, Joelinton, and Wilson. Callum Wilson on the bench, like I mentioned. Now for the last 3 games, Chelsea had the big 4-1 win. Like I mentioned, a response after the early goal against Sheffield. They had the 3-0 win against Rennes, a big one that was, you know, marred by a lot of controversy. And then the very, very solid 3-0 win over Burnley. We've been on a very hot streak, a very good hot streak recently, and we need to keep that up against Newcastle, although I do think they'll give us a bit of trouble. Now for Newcastle's last 3 games, they had the very flat loss against Southampton. It was an incredibly disappointing loss where they really were never in that game. They had the big win over Everton and the big draw against Wolves. Now for the last 3 matchups between these 2 teams, Newcastle actually went away with a win earlier this year, last season, and they came up with a 1-0 win. I believe it was at St. James's Park. Then earlier that season, Chelsea beat Newcastle 1-0, and then the last time they played before that was a 2-1 win to Chelsea. Now, as for Chelsea's approach to this game, Newcastle, like I mentioned, are coming off of a very flat game against Southampton where they honestly should have conceded more than they did. Southampton could have easily ran that score up 4 or 5 goals as compared to last year, which is crazy. I barely saw that when Southampton played Newcastle, it was almost a year to the day where Southampton got beat 9-0 by Leicester City. I thought it was funny that they went from getting dominated last year to dominating this year. But again, like I mentioned, Newcastle, flat game. They were just awful against Southampton. And from the get-go, and I believe this is why it's key for Chelsea in this game, from the get-go, Southampton pressed Newcastle. They were all over them. They pressed high. They kept Newcastle pinned back. And it didn't help that Newcastle's offense didn't have anything to respond. They didn't offer anything to try and alleviate the pressure off their defense. And therefore, we need to continue the sort of pressing we had against Sheffield. That's why you kind of draw some comparisons between Newcastle and Sheffield. They're in similar situations when we face both of them, in that they haven't conceded a whole lot, but they seem to crack when they're constantly pressured, especially because their offense is just so lackluster and they're really unable to keep some kind of pressure going up top to keep the defense, allow them to breathe pretty much. And Chelsea should be able to break down Newcastle the same they did Sheffield. They have similar defenses. They both play 5 in the back. And so long as Chelsea press high and get it going, we should be able to keep them at bay. The problem is we can't allow Newcastle to get any kind of foothold in this game. Obviously, the first 10 minutes against Sheffield, we kind of did allow Sheffield in, and obviously they stole a goal early, and fortunately we were able to respond. We can't risk that again, though. We cannot risk that again. I believe we need to get an early sustained sort of press going and keep that press going while keeping our shape, because if we don't keep our shape, we're just setting ourselves up for easy counters for Newcastle, and then they come away with a goal. They have momentum. We lose momentum, and suddenly they're, you know, pressing us. And so no, we need to keep the press going. We need to keep that high press, but keep our shape at the same time. In defense, we will be missing Thiago Silva's leadership. He's been doing incredibly well over the last month, and he will be missed. However, it's still relatively the same core across the board, and they should be able to hold it down. I mean, Chilwell, James have been excellent on the left and right respectively, and Kurt Zouma has been excellent as well in defense. So Rudiger should be able to slot in nicely, and our defense should be able to continue the way it has been. Azpilicueta could get a start over James. He could get a start over Rudiger, although I don't really see... I see him starting over James more so than Azpilicueta starting over Rudiger. However, I do think the lineup that I said is likely the best defense to go with. And another thing to mention is that Chelsea's record at St. James's Park is not great. I believe it was the last 9 appearances we've made there. We've not won a single one. We've drawn twice and lost 7, I think. So we have a horrible record at St. James. And I believe it's like... we have the most games. What is it? It's like the most games, most defeats away from home. Newcastle's our 3rd at like 13 or something like that, and then it's like Arsenal and Liverpool or something like that. And so we haven't performed well at St. James. However, they do have no fans, so it shouldn't be as much of a struggle. However, Newcastle will likely still want to defend their home, obviously. But as I mentioned in the Premier League prediction video, home field advantage this season has been not as effective. So that's why I think that Chelsea shouldn't, that little superstitious thing should not plague Chelsea, should not hold them back in this game. Now with the renewed firepower of this season, the likes of Timo Werner, with the likes of Hakim Ziyech, there's no reason why we should be getting shut out like we did earlier this year. Newcastle will want to respond after their really disappointing loss against Southampton with a potential press of their own, but the catch is for them is they have to worry about us and our press and our counter, because I feel like Chelsea's counter is deadly. It's extremely deadly. You have like Timo Werner, who has incredible pace, is able to just squeeze through the defense at any point. You have Hakim Ziyech, who's able to just create something out of nothing. You have Tammy Abraham, who has a very good hold-up play and should be able to get off some decent passes should he start. Callum Hudson-Odoi, when he wants to play, has great passing and great vision. He's able to create a lot. He's able to create a lot on that left side. So if he's on, and hopefully, should he start, he performs well in this game. Now, we will have our opportunity to start this game to keep a foothold and dominate the game. Newcastle are going to give us, I feel like they are going to give us a challenge and might steal a goal in this game. I don't know if Chelsea have their press 100% down just yet. A lot of it has been down to our defense holding the other team at bay and allowing the offense to get going. It's not so much counters, it's not so much a press. It's kind of a combination of both, but I feel like we haven't fully realized our potential when it comes to the press. Sheffield was a very good sign though. Sheffield, Burnley have been a couple games recently that have been a very good sign that we're getting our press down. But then you look at Krasnodar, you look at Rennes, even though we won those games 3-0, we really couldn't establish a solid continuous press like we did against Sheffield. So I think Newcastle might steal a goal in this game. However, I don't think it'll affect the eventual outcome. My final score prediction, as I mentioned yesterday, is 3-1. I feel like maybe it won't be as a dominant performance, maybe as the scoreline shows. However, I feel like Newcastle won't entirely be able to get a foothold in this game. Maybe Chelsea score more. Maybe Chelsea win this 4-0, 5-0. But I'm going to go with a 3-1. I think that's solid. I think Newcastle's going to come away with, they're going to steal a goal and maybe make the scoreline a little closer than it might appear. I don't think this game is incredibly tough to call. This is definitely Chelsea's game to lose. They are the favorites in this one, and they should be able to come away with a win, a very solid win, and continue our streak. We're going to be going to, if we win this game or draw, which we shouldn't, we'll be on 9 games without a loss. Since we lost to Liverpool, we have not lost. Or is it Spurs? One of those games. We've been doing really well, and I just really need us to continue this form against Newcastle and come away with a win that we should be coming away with and take top of the table, even if it's only for a few seconds. But if you guys enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe. Go check out the socials in the description. My Instagram is @BlueHermit1. My Twitter is @BlueHermit_. Please share the socials with all your friends, family, everybody know. Let the people know Blue Hermit's where it's at, and I'll see you guys later.